Let's bring in Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida. He serves on the House Oversight Committee. You guys had a really hearing that made a lot of headlines on this yesterday. So we'll get to more of that hearing in a moment. But let me just get your reaction to the president's new policy and what he said about it last night on immigration in the southern border.
Well, the first thing is we would actually like to see the text of this plan. We've not seen any plan come from the president. The issue dealing with migrants coming from Venezuela, Nicaragua, they just put that in last month. But all you're doing is reallocating the problem he created when he came into office.
The White House put out a lot of text on it on their website.
All you're doing is reallocating the problem.
42 in part.
You're just reallocating the problem. What they've done is said, okay, you can come to a legal point of entry as opposed to an illegal point of entry. But the surge of migrants at the border continues. It's just a reallocation of the problem he created.
Well, it's actually, in part, 30,000 migrants can come through this way if they do the proper paperwork and vetting, et cetera. But it's also an expansion of Trump's Title 42, giving them more authority to turn them away at the border. And according to the Department of Homeland Security, it's working. From December to January of this year, DHS notes that of those migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, they've seen a 97% decline in the illegal entries. Just wait, DHS numbers since December.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. They've decreased the number at illegal points of entry, which is still massively up. The numbers last month are coming in about 150,000, 100,000 decrease, but it's just been reallocated to legal points of entry. The same asylum process that is massively expanded past anything America has ever done.
So you don't think it's a good thing that illegal crossings in that way of this group is?
You're mixing metaphors now. The issue is not whether it's just illegal crosses or illegal crosses. Crossings are up massively. How are the cities in our country going to be able to take in all of these new entrants? That is not consistent policy. Before the president came into office, your average intake was about 400,000, maybe 500,000 if you had a surge year. Since he's been president, 1.6 million entrants in 2021, 2.2 million entrants in 2022, and rising. All they're trying to do is shift the burden. That's all they're doing.
The Homeland Security is saying that your numbers don't match up. So that let's move on, because I want to ask you: isn't that the point of a plan? Is to debate that? You saying that we want to see the plan. The president put out a plan. Wouldn't a better response be, well, we don't agree with this, but we'd like to take this framework and work on it and try to make it better, rather than just saying it's not great, this isn't going to work, I want to see it. He's actually put something out and laid something out there for people to work with. This is a better idea to try to do it?
Well, two things. Number one, we were in oversight yesterday discussing this in particular. I know Homeland Security's numbers. Trust me, my numbers add up. I did the math yesterday in committee. We actually talked with border chiefs about it specifically yesterday. Number two, the president's immigration policies, when he changed border protocols, when he came into office, January 20, 2021, these are his executive orders. They have led to the massive shifts, the massive raises in people crossing the border illegally.
One of his own question. Wouldn't it be better to try to work with the president instead of criticizing the plan, saying that it's not going to work, or that something in the past has not worked?
We would love to. But you actually have to secure the border. You have to take care of the issues. Like I said, illegal crossings are up
he's trying to do, but you're criticizing something that happened in the past. What he's saying is that I want to move forward and try to work with people, and you're saying but, and you're looking backwards instead of forward, like the people who heckled him and said, he goes, wait, I'm getting there. And then the next sentence out of his mouth is, we want to work on border security and try to work on these things, but you're looking backwards.
Don, you have to look back at the policy changes. How can you ignore 4.5 million people coming through the southern border and say, don't look back the last 2 years, let's just look forward? You have to have policy changes.
Change the policies. You can say
you
that
have
you
to
want
have
to work
policy
with the
changes.
Okay, fine.
You got to have policy
Isn't that
changes.
What he's saying, Congressman?
No, he's reallocating the situation. He's not changed the overall protocols. He's just reallocating them. That's the point that we're making. If you go back to Remain in Mexico, which did work, if you actually go back to making sure you adjudicate asylum before somebody comes to the border, if you say to border agents, which was the policy under President Trump, President Obama, President Clinton, and President Bush, that they can make determinations.
I don't want to keep arguing with you, and I want my colleague to get in. But again, is there an answer that says, instead of we don't want to look back, is there an answer that says, moving forward, here's what we can do?
Moving forward, you have to give border agents the proper tools in order to actually secure the border. The president has taken that from them. That's what he did.
Okay, so in the future, you would like to see the president do what with border agents?
I just told you. You have to give them the
Okay,
ability to make determinations of credible fear.
That's
you have to reinstate this Remain in Mexico policy. You have to not give massive asylum proceedings, which, by the way, are taking 6 years to get through, and people go to the first hearing.
So you're saying you're willing to work with the
back
president on these policies to change them moving forward?
The president has to actually make border changes. He's the only person that can do that, and he's not doing it.
And you're willing to work with him to do it?
If they're credible changes, of course.
Great. Thank you.
There are two moments I want to ask you about from last night. One, speaking of the border, and as the president was talking about fentanyl and what a problem that is in this country, which I think anyone would acknowledge. A Republican from Tennessee, one of your colleagues, Rep. Andy Ogles, shouted at the president after he was talking about a father whose daughter had died as a result of fentanyl, shouted, "It's your fault," at the president. Say what you will about the heckling last night. Some people thought it was lively and added to it. But in that moment, was that appropriate?
The president unilaterally changed border policy. The drug cartels are using his border changes to increase trafficking of fentanyl into the United States. Every measure has said this. Border agents have told us. I've been there 4 times, many more times than the president has been. I've been there 4 times. Here's the facts. Border agents have said the protocol changes have allowed the drug cartels to take advantage of border agents who are now processing paperwork, so that you have fentanyl trafficking is up massively, well over 800%.
I think we would all acknowledge that fentanyl trafficking is a problem, but do you think it's appropriate to put the entire thing on President Biden and say it's your fault in front of a father who lost his daughter to that?
If trafficking of fentanyl is up because of the president's changes, it is his fault. Who are we going to blame? Are you going to blame members of Congress? Are you going to blame the father? You're not going to do that. The president made unilateral changes. The drug cartels have operational control with respect to drug trafficking because of the president has weakened our border agents' hands. Those are the facts.
I think blaming the entire fentanyl crisis on Biden is a stretch, but I'll move on. Overall, the moment last night as Biden was engaging with your Republican colleagues on Social Security and Medicare, and McCarthy as well there, do you think that helped Biden in that moment? Because that is the White House's takeaway, is that he took advantage of his critics in that moment.
No. What are you even talking about? Joe Biden created this fallacy that we were cutting Social Security and Medicare. No Republican has said that.
I read it on Rick Scott's website.
See, this is the problem, because we're conflating.
Right.
He's been bringing this up for decades.
Rick Scott introduced a plan that would, Rick Scott introduced a plan that would have Social Security and Medicare and all other federal laws sunset every 5 years, and if Congress wants, it can be reapproved every 5 years. So I understand what you're saying, and the president said some Republicans, but you can't say that no Republican said that.
Listen, have we talked about structures to Social Security and Medicare? Of course. The programs go insolvent somewhere between 2023 and 2035. If you do not look at those programs, you're not being serious.
So you think Republicans should look at them?
Hold on, let's make a clear point. The delineation is with respect to the debt ceiling. No Republican has said we're going to look at Social Security and Medicare. No Republican. The president has tried to conflate the two to make a political argument. He is wrong.
Here's what Ron Johnson said Senator Ron Johnson in August.
Social Security and Medicare, if you qualify for the entitlement, you just get it no matter what the cost, because we ought to turn everything into discretionary spending, so it's all evaluated.
It's to your point, Caitlin.
I'm going to make the point again. Social Security and Medicare must be studied. They go insolvent in less than a decade. All the data says that.
Newsworthy
We have to look at that.
The House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, has said it is off the table when it comes to this specifically.
To the debt ceiling? Yes, it's off the table. We've been saying that for a month now. The only person saying that we're talking about Social Security cuts is Joe Biden. He's been lying to the American people. No Republican on the Hill has said, hey, for debt ceiling, we're going to look at Social Security and Medicare. It is not true. I'm one of the most vocal members of our conference. I am telling you, not true.
Kevin McCarthy has ruled it out, but there is a reason they brought it up, and the reason that the president was able to use that moment last night. But Congressman, thank you.
You looked bad in that moment, I'm telling you right now.
That is your perspective. That is why we brought you on. Thank you for sharing that with us, especially on immigration as well.
Sure. Thank you, Congressman.
For coming.